It's as true as the air is death. After the unknown war, people started seeing him flickering out there on the horizon like a candle. Oh, he was called a lot of things. Joe Glow, the man of mass destruction, the walking bomb. His name was Tariq Geiger, and everything he did, good and bad, was for family. Today on the Comic Book Report, Geiger. Stick around and check it out. Greetings all, my name is Dominic and you're tuning in to the Comic Book Report, where we review comic books and graphic novels so you can get an idea of what to read. Today we'll be taking a look at Geoff Johns and Gary Frank's Geiger. And my friends, this was a fun one, so buckle up, cause here we go. But first, here are a few quick facts about today's collection. Geiger was written by Geoff Johns and illustrated by Gary Frank. The issues collected in this trade paperback were initially published by Image Comics in 2021. The volume itself collects Geiger issues 1 through 6 and comes in at 160 pages. At this time, I'd like to issue a brief spoiler warning. I will be flipping through today's collection, as well as commenting on plot points. You've been advised. Alright, and here's our first look at the trade paperback collection for Geiger. This was released, as I said, by Image Comics, and I have to say, I really like how this book is made. In so many ways, it really is just your standard size trade paperback. But one of the things I like about this collection is I feel like the paper stock, which is a light gloss, is a bit thicker than collections I've seen recently from Marvel and DC. It's a really sturdy paper, like I said, standard sized. I would have loved to see oversized artwork. Maybe one day we'll get a deluxe edition or an omnibus or something like that. But for right now, I'm so excited to hold this trade in my hands. And without further ado, I think it's time we go ahead and jump in. So as I start making my way through the beginning of this collection here, maybe I'll give you a brief background on how I found Geiger. So, like so many of you, I assume, I'm a big fan of Geoff Johns. This man, I feel like, has tent-poled and just held up DC Comics from the writing end for a long time. That guy, there's not really a bad Geoff Johns comic that I've read. There's some that don't change my whole life, but in general, if it's a Geoff Johns book, I'm going to get a good bang for my buck, and I'm going to be so happy about it. So, I was pleasantly surprised when I heard he had an indie series coming out through Image that wasn't DC Comics. I don't think I read a Geoff Johns non-DC comic, ever. So I was so eager to get my hands on this. I heard loose things about it, that he was kind of a radioactive man, and generally the buzz I heard online was that this was worth picking up. I first heard about it, I think, from social media or YouTubers, just about this title, because again, I collect the collected edition, not the month-to-month single issues, but I got so much buzz about this that this was one, when I heard the trade paperback was coming, I knew I had to pick it up. Now, Geoff Johns might have been my draw for this title, but wow, when I heard Gary Frank was teaming up with him again, this became a must-buy for me. I'd read Geoff Johns and Gary Frank's Superman Secret Origin some time ago, and I was absolutely floored by the art style. A kind of more realistic, hyper-detailed art style. I loved what I saw in Superman. They kind of depicted him like the Christopher Reeve Superman, and I was just in love with that artwork. So when I found out that Gary Frank was the guy that co-created this with Geoff Johns, that he was the illustrator, I knew I was in for a good time. And if you haven't noticed already, the art is jaw-dropping. Now, you might be asking, what is Geiger even about? Well, to summarize, after what they call the Unknown War, a kind of nuclear holocaust occurs and irradiates the world and creates a kind of post-apocalyptic radioactive wasteland. It's kind of similar to kind of the Fallout universe, if you've ever played those video games. So the setting was at once familiar to me, and it's in this radioactive wasteland that we meet Tariq Geiger, a man who prepared a fallout shelter to save his family from nuclear destruction, only to sacrifice himself to ensure they reached the bunker safely. Tariq was a cancer patient who was on experimental medication, who, when exposed to a radioactive blast, turned into this glowing nuclear man, Geiger. His powers are he's pretty strong and intensely radioactive. He has these rods that he has in his back that kind of help contain his nuclear energy. When he pulls those out, he starts to glow green and build up energy and power. The rods also help safeguard him from exploding, it looks like. And anyway, opposite him, we have this new de facto family of this elder sister and younger sick brother who themselves have to flee after their mom is killed and they're orphaned. They are from Las Vegas, which is one of humanity's last outposts, it looks like. Vegas exists within this bubble and is ruled by this crazy monarchy. The three of them kind of band together and try to get this nuclear football that contains all of the codes for the nuclear warheads. They're trying to get it to some kind of safe haven, so they have to brave the wastelands and all the creatures and things that live out there. There is, of course, much more to this book, even within the plot line, but that's kind of the general broad strokes of what you can find in this volume. There's so much more I could talk about, but one of the things I wanted to bring up was how much I enjoyed the characterization found in this book. Between Frank's art that just perfectly conveys all of the subtle nuances of emotion to the strong writing and tragic backstories, I was gripped by so many of our story's heroes, as well as the sadistic villains. I think one of the most impressive things about Geiger in general, too, is the general quality of the world building. This is like a high science fiction fantasy at its best. The world feels so real and immersive, and I right away just wanted to explore more of it. I felt similarly when I read Scott Snyder's Noctera, where the world felt so real and lived in that I just wanted to explore all of the subtle nuances within. And while I still feel like we're scratching the surface of Geiger's world, we do get a pretty good self-contained story arc within this single volume. I'm not sure if Johns is planning to write a volume 2 to Geiger, but if so, I am ready and waiting for it. It appears that Geoff Johns is building a broader world or shared universe for this Geigerverse. There's gonna be all of these other characters throughout American history, mostly related to certain wars. This new kind of tall tales or heroes throughout all of these different ages, past, present, or in Geiger's case, the future. Within these pages, we're introduced to this robot who is one of these tall tales from this new universe that Johns is building. And while I wasn't as interested in that character as, of course, the titular Geiger, I am beyond fascinated at this idea of creating a shared universe around newly created American tall tales. And I think if anyone could handle it deftly, it would be Geoff Johns. So I guess we have to stay tuned and see what's coming next. And as we go ahead and close this trade paperback with these lovely extras at the back of the book, I think it's time we give Geoff Johns and Gary Frank's Geiger a grade. With its masterclass world building, handful of truly memorable characters, and some of the most gorgeous art I've seen in quite some time, it's a no-brainer that the Comic Book Report gives Geiger an A-. This is a must-read for me, folks. With rich storytelling and emotional depth, don't miss out on Geiger. Have you read Geiger? If so, let me know what you thought in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you guys. And until next time, this has been the Comic Book Report. Please consider subscribing, leaving me a like or a comment, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one.